is the appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. On the agenda, there are 3 items for discussion. Before the meeting, the administration submitted paper number ECI 2025-26-2. It contains changes in directorate establishment approved by the Finance Committee since 2022 and also changes in relation to the 3 discussion items on the agenda. If I may remind members, if there are direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to the discussion items today, please disclose the nature of the interest before you speak in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. I would also like to draw members' attention to Rule 84 of the Rules of Procedure on the voting provision in relation where there are direct pecuniary interest. Item 1 on the agenda, paper number EC bracket 2025-26-2. It's from about the financial services branch of the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau. The proposed is to retain 2 time-limited supernumerary posts of 1 administrative officer staff grade B D3 and 1 administrative officer staff grade C D2 in the Financial Services branch, with effect from the 1st of January 2026 or upon approval by the Finance Committee, whichever is later, up to the 31st of December 2028, to promote various relevant policies with pivotal functions, including company registration regime, accounting profession, and fintech, and to take forward a number of initiatives in key policy areas. On the 4th of November 2025, the administration consulted the panel on financial affairs. Attending the meeting today, we have Mr. Joseph Chan, Acting Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Mr. Keith Keong, Deputy Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, and Mr. Kelvin Low, Principal Assistant Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury Financial Services. First, I'll invite Mr. Robert Lee, Chairman of the Panel on Financial Affairs, to briefly report on the deliberations of the panel. Thank you, Chairman. At its meeting on the 4th of November 2024, the Panel on Financial Affairs discussed the retention of the 2 time-limited supernumerary posts of Deputy Secretary Financial Services 3 and Principal Assistant Secretary Financial Services 6 in the Financial Services branch of the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau. The panel also considered the proposal to create the post of Principal Assistant Secretary Financial Services 8. Members supported the submission of the above proposal to the Establishment Subcommittee for consideration to take forward various legislative and policy initiatives and consolidate the status of Hong Kong as an international financial center. Members pointed out that the duties of the 2 posts proposed to be retained, such as modernizing the common law, promoting fintech development, etc., are ongoing duties. If a time limit is imposed on the posts, the relevant work progress may be affected. Members therefore suggested to the administration to turn the 2 posts into permanent posts instead of just for a period of 3 years. Members urged the administration to deregulate further in order to improve the business environment in Hong Kong. For instance, the administration should explore streamlining the compliance requirements for the banking industry, banking, insurance, and financial services sectors, and reduce the compliance costs for businesses. Members also expressed concerns on MPF fees and publicity on the eMPF platform. The administration responded to the questions and concerns of members at the meeting. Thank you. Now, the second item on the agenda is actually related to the FSTB. So perhaps the acting secretary will therefore brief us on both papers in one go. And of course, the discussion will be separate. Acting secretary, please. Thank you. We would like to seek members' view, to consult members on the 2 establishment proposal. The first one is for the Financial Services branch of the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau, FSCB, is to retain 2 time-limited supernumerary posts for with a deal with policy issues in relation to company registration regime, accounting profession, fintech, and so on. And then the country has asked that we give full play to the institutional strengths of one country, two systems, and consolidate our status as an international center. The Chief Executive's 2024 policy address also pointed out that we want to consolidate our status, and to do that, we need to explore new growth areas. We propose to retain the 2 directorate posts. So the duties have to do with company registration regime, fintech, and so on. This will consolidate they are crucial to consolidating the status of Hong Kong status as an international financial center. So we ask members to support the retention of the 2 posts, so we could take forward various measures. We consulted the panel on financial affairs on the 4th of November 2024, and the panel supported the proposal. And then at that same meeting, we also propose to create another directorate post, which will be limited. That's to deal with MPF and these population census. We have listened to members' views recently, and having further reviewed the staffing arrangement of the FSCB, we will revise the proposal. We will not create that post for now. So, and then we will deploy resources internally to take up the additional duties. The second item is about the staffing, the establishment of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. We propose to delete 2 civil service posts. Now, in 2006, the FC approved the retention of 2 civil service posts to maintain the promotion prospects of then civil servants in the bank examiner grade. Since there are no more civil servants serving in the Hong Kong MA, we propose to delete these 2 directorate posts. And if it is approved, then there will no more be any civil service posts of the Hong Kong MA. Thank you. So that's all for introduction, and we are prepared to answer members' questions. 7 members have asked to speak. I'll read out the list. Dr. Charmin Kong, Mr. Shang Hai Long, Mr. Charles Siu Chung, Mr. Robert Lee, Dr. Shou Chang Wing, Mr. Chen Yong, and Ms. Carmen Can. First, Dr. Charmin, Mr. Charmin Kong. Now, the 2 posts were created in 2006, and then you are asking to retain the post. Now, as an international financial center, we face both opportunities and challenges. So how do we further consolidate our status? There's high expectation from the central authorities. So how can these 2 posts lead the industry to face challenges and create new and explore new opportunities? That's the first point. And second question is, how are these 2 posts different? They are in the same team, they do similar work. So can we just keep one of the 2 posts instead? Or can you tell us why is it important to keep both posts? 2 questions. Acting Secretary. Thank you. Well, first about the Deputy Secretary post, DS post. This post covers 5 policy areas. That's the administration of companies registry and money lending regime, regulatory regime. And as you know, we will soon be considering the redomiciliation mechanism for companies, and then after the bill is passed, then we will have to implement the policy. And then we're also promoting paperless transactions. And then as for money lenders, in the first half of the year, we're going to conduct public consultation, and then we will be then formulating relevant initiatives and legislative amendment proposals. And then we will conduct also inspections, and we review advertisements of money lenders to make sure there's compliance. As an international financial center, of course, we need to improve the quality of professional services, and trust. The trust sector is an important sector. the Financial Actions Task Force has relevant requirements on money laundering and so on. So we will continue to consider views from the international community. And then in 2029-30, there will be a mutual evaluation by the FATF, so we'll be prepared then. And I won't say too much. If members wish, I could give you more information later. And then on the official receiver's office, there are relevant duties as well. And then development of the accounting sector, that's the third area. Fourth area, fintech development. And the fifth policy area is our participation in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and the Asian Development Bank. So those are all the duties of the DS. There are actually 2 DS in the Bureau. And for this particular DS is responsible for Customs Registry, AIIB and ADB work and so on. So there's one DS overseeing the work of 2 Principal Assistant Secretary to take forward such tasks. Now, I just mentioned the Companies Registry and the money lenders as an example, and you know that in the next few years there will be various policy initiatives and measures to be implemented in these 2 policy areas. So that's why we believe this structure is appropriate. Next, Mr. Shanghai Long. Thank you. I speak in support of the retention of these 2 time-limited supernumerary posts, one DS post and the other is a PAS post. I think this proposal is reasonable for 3 reasons. First, paragraph 21 of the paper. The panel on financial affairs considered 3 supernumerary posts actually in the proposal. Then the FSTB will only retain 2 posts now. So A plus B plus C, that's paragraph 22. That is a number of director posts since 22. And so there is reduction in number of posts. That means the FSTB is deploying its resources efficiently. And third point, Mr. Robert Lee mentioned that at the discussion in the panel, some members said, you have already retained the post a number of times, so you might as well turn these posts into permanent ones. Now, the administration is not doing that now. It's still keeping them as 3 time-limited posts for the time being, so that's why for these reasons I support the proposal. Now, I have 2 questions. First, you keep repeating that these 2 posts are related to fintech. Now, I must declare that I'm a strategic consultant of an AI company in Hong Kong. So it seems that there's no assessment of fintech and all, but then we are now ranked 4th instead of 5th in the world. So what sort of achievements have been made in fintech development? Please tell us. And what kind of fintech will you develop to achieve the objectives? That's the first question. Second question, I'm the founding president of Association on Talents coming to Hong Kong. Now, there's mention on countering money laundering. I've received requests for assistance in several cases. Now, it's difficult to bring money to Hong Kong. About 1.5 years ago, I asked a written question about top talents from mainland bringing money to Hong Kong. They find that they can use USD to convert into Hong Kong dollars, and then they could conduct the transactions. But then, unfortunately, part of that money received was actually laundered money, and so the money was stuck in Hong Kong, and even there's a court case, they still couldn't get the money back. So how can we protect proper transactions? And the recipient may not know that the money received includes laundered money. So are there ways to improve such arrangements? Thank you.
主席，多謝。
2 questions. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to Mr. Shang for the question. Fintech first. Over the time, we've been taking different approaches to the development of fintech. facilitating fintech infrastructure, nurturing talents, and rationalizing new regulations. In recent years, we have done a lot. Previously, we promoted the subsidy scheme for verification of fintech companies, offering support to the early stage fintech companies for them to complete the proof of concept stage for further development. And we have approved over 150 projects. 70% of the projects have completed verification before commercialization. On top of the projects, we help nurture talents. To employers in this field, we have a subsidy scheme. Over 620 practitioners received subsidy for relevant courses. On top of practitioners, we also take care of college students. We have the two-way internship program for Greater Bay Area college students, offering 150 quotas. We've launched the program both last year and this year, so the college students can gain some experience in fintech so they can be equipped for relevant work after graduation. As you know, artificial intelligence is another hotspot topic. Last year, we published policy statement on the use of AI in financial industry, and we will be following on the policies. So fintech has different projects and different initiatives in progress. The member also asked about anti-money laundering. Currently, the licensed financial institutions will need to comply with AML and counter-terrorist financing regulations. In this regard, we need to enhance public education. So when they use financial services, they will look for licensed financial institutions. So they receive services that are legally protected. We hope that if members received complaints from the public, they can defer them to me or relevant financial institutions. So these malpractices and this malpractices in selling services can be attacked. Next one is Mr. Zhou Xiuchong. Thank you. I support the retention of these two time-limited supernumerary posts. They have a very important work, and these two posts have been in place for 20 years, and they have long-term needs, so I support them. I have two questions. First, I can see that these two retained posts, in terms of the mandate, one of them is to formulate long-term policies for Accounting and Financial Reporting Council. Last March at a financial committee meeting, and we were talking about an injection of 200 million Hong Kong dollars, and 50 members were present for voting, and the funding application was approved. I was involved in the discussion as well. In fact, back then, the AFRC, its financial status was awful, and in 2024 there was a loss of 168 million. And members are so worried about the financial position of AFRC, whether it's really sustainable. We're so worried, so we couldn't support the funding application. That's why I'd like to ask the Secretary, after the approval of funding in March last year, regarding these two posts, have you studied how we can improve on the financial position of AFRC? Any solutions, any suggestions? That's the first question. Second, last year, At some panel meetings, the government suggested 8 PAC posts, and these PAS are in charge of MPF work. For example, full portability of the MPF and the eMPF platforms. I agree with the discontinuation of these posts because we have saved over 2 million for our government. We hope that you can explain on that. And in 2021, when these posts were opened, one of the responsibilities was to study on the MPF contribution for low-income persons. Is this still the mandate of FSTB, or is this the work of Labor Welfare Bureau? Thank you for the questions, and thank you for supporting our proposal. Regarding the AFRC, well, your statement is right. We were involved in the fund allocation, and the AFRC has not met our requirement for bearing their own costs. And back then, to make the industry better adapt to the situation, we decided to inject funding with public accounts so the AFRC can start the work. But for the long term, we believe that AFRC will need to pay for their own operational cost. We have followed with AFRC, and we have done some analysis, and we have discussed with the sectors. And at a proper time, we will submit the long-term strategies for discussion at the Legislative Council. As for their financial positions, back then, you remember that they were so distressed financially, and after that, with market dynamics changing, the AFRC has seen higher operational income. This is why we didn't discuss the item in the first half of this year. But we will look at the long-term strategy, and we will discuss it at this council at a proper timing. The second question has to do with PAS 8. Although this time we didn't request a PAS post under financial services branch, we have a post in charge of MPF, and our colleagues in this department will continue the work. And this team has been under DS2, and DS2 has been in charge of this work. As for the supervisory work of the DS, and this will fall into PAS 7. So we have DS2 and PAS 7, and these two directorate posts will take care of MPF policies and relevant work. Going forward, if we believe that some adjustments would have to be made, we will follow up on them at the Legislative Council. As for the second question from the member, we believe this has to do with LWB. So we will take in charge of supervision and practice. Next one is Mr. Robert Lee. Thank you, Chairman. As regard to the retention of 2 time-limited supernumerary posts by FSTB, I support it. Earlier on, FSTB and other departments have discussed the proposal fully with the members. And as Hong Kong is an international financial center, there is a lot in the mandate of relevant posts. We're talking about liquidation, lenders, ADB, AIAB. There are a lot of projects to follow up on. And this time, we have observed that the posts have been reduced from 3 to 2. We've observed this intention of the Bureau to take a very restrained approach. So we support that proposal. I have 2 questions. First, on page 7, the paper states that these 2 posts concern a cost of 5.3 million, including 1.7 million staff costs, and the total number would be 7 million. And what are these staff costs and other benefits? Given that these 2 posts are in charge of many things, including fintech, but fintech is a broad concept. If they are going to follow up on virtual bank, digital bank, and insurance companies and licenses for virtual assets, they concern securities and banking. So I'd like to know how these 2 posts are going to coordinate their efforts with other colleagues, because some of them will be taking this approach from the banking perspective, but there are a lot of other topics for them to take care of. Secretary, thank you. Chairman, thank you, member, for the question, and thank you for your support to our work. I will take the first question and will defer the second question to Deputy Secretary. As for fintech, I'd like to make a clarification. These 2 posts are in charge of fintech, but they don't take care of virtual assets. Virtual assets are managed by another team, and they are managing anti-money laundering and anti-terrorist financing relevant work. But at present, we need to coordinate efforts across different departments. For example, when it comes to FPS, we need to use digital RMB, and we need to facilitate cross-border use of central bank virtual currencies, and this will concern collaboration with many other regulators. So we want to coordinate different financial policies and initiatives across departments. That's why collaboration with other departments is very important. Last year, we launched this policy declaration on the use of AI. AI's use concerns banks and security brokers and insurance companies. That's why on these policy documents and their implementation, we will work with other institutions. This has been our direction for some time, and we will continue that. As for resource allocation, I'd like to defer the question to our Deputy Secretary. You are talking about paragraph 19 on page 7, and these costs are in line with civil servants' salary. These 2 posts are both civil servants posts, and they are based on the pay scale, and these numbers are based on the midpoint of the pay scale. And here we are also talking about the staff on cost, and here we're talking about housing allowances and other annual allowances. So this is a total number, including different items.
Next, Dr. Su Changwing. Thank you, Chairman. Last November, you consulted the panel on financial affairs on 3 posts, and I made 2 points then. Firstly, for the Principal Assistant Secretary 8 post, well, some of the duties are not long-term ones, and some of the work could actually be taken up by the MPF authority. So we thank the Bureau for taking on board our views and has not proposed the creation of the PAS8 post. Now for DS3 and PAS6 posts at the panel, I asked the administration to turn these into permanent posts. So how come you have not done so? Now, on the creation or retention of posts, the government usually goes for time-limited supernumerary posts. I wonder if there are certain principles that you have to keep to, because it's actually misleading to the public. You're still spending as much money, but then you just call them time-limited posts, as if you then keep flexibility, or you could even save money. But actually, you have the same staff number and you're spending as much. And for this item, you explain clearly in the paper that the regime on companies registration, money lenders, trust, and so on. It's important to maintain these regimes to ensure the consolidation, enhancing of our status and as an international financial center. So such work is essential to that end. That means these tasks are long term. So why don't you just turn these two posts into permanent ones? Because the person in the post may think that he's only doing temporary work, and that may affect the way the duties are planned for that post. And you have actually renewed this post 7 times already. So what do you think about my proposal to turn the post permanent? Acting Secretary, thank you for the questions and your views. I thank you for recognizing the importance of the post to the relevant policy areas. Now, when the posts were first created, there were special duties to be taken up. That's the rewriting of the company's ordinance. And then subsequently, there's development in the market, and then there's a need to reform the accounting sector, and then fintech came about. So every 3 years after we renewed the post, we found there were new tasks or new policy initiatives that needed to be introduced, and so we need the manpower. That's why we retained the post. And now with fintech, accounting sector, or the company's regime, or money lender regime, and so on, we see that there are still follow-up tasks in each of these policy areas, so we need someone to take charge of the duties. And given the current financial position of the government, we adopt a cautious approach in relation to the creation of permanent directed posts. That's why we propose to keep these as a time-limited post. In the next 3 years, we review the long-term needs for the director posts. That is, whether we need to further extend these posts or turn them into permanent ones. We'll come back to report to you. Thank you for your views. I hope you understand that in 2006, when we first created the posts, there were specific tasks that we needed to take up. And at the time, we could not foresee the future development of the market. We did not see the need for new policy initiatives, and now that's why so we're proposing to keep to retain the 2 posts, but then we will consider whether to make them permanent in future. Now, if there are members in the complex who would like to ask questions on this item, please join us as soon as possible. I'll draw a line after Mr. Chen Yong speaks. Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure we all recognize the importance of the 2 posts in relation to the policy initiatives that need to be taken up. That is the accounting sector, fintech, companies registration, and so on. Now, changes in the establishments. Since 2023, 105 plus 3, that was in 2023, and now is 99 plus 2. So we see a reduction in the number of posts. And that means there's savings in government spending. So we commend this change. Now, it's best you could further compress the establishment, but then you can't really reduce workload too. So, second point, I'd like to declare I'm a non-executive director of a listed company. Now, in my sector, I have many voters in the financial services sector. Now, perhaps it's not just this post, but then on the whole, there's this tariff war between the country and U.S. Of course, we are winning the war, but still, we always talk about deregulation. At the same time, we need to ensure there is proper supervision because we are an international financial center. But then as we compare ourselves to Singapore, London, and so on, in terms of regulatory regime, we all doing the same things. But then on top of that, we do something extra. So that's over-regulation and that will affect our economic vibrancy. Now, there's additional workload, but then we become less vibrant, and then the accounting profession and other sectors may suffer more competition from neighboring countries, and that won't help our economy. So, would there be additional regulation, or are you just streamlining the process? And maybe you can't streamline the process, but can you be more efficient in, say, instead of 1 month, you take only 3 weeks to process applications? That would already help Hong Kong. Now, the CE is trying to explore to bring in more businesses and investment to Hong Kong. He's working really hard, so we need to make sure that there is cost effectiveness in the work, and then there must be streamlining of your regulatory regime because you now have a smaller staff. Secretary, thank you. Yes, on developing the financial market, it's important we need to improve efficiency, and where appropriate, there should be deregulation. Now, about our stock market or the listing rules, we're following up with the Hong Kong Exchange and the SFC to review the existing rules, whether there's room to allow more flexibility to listed companies and streamline the procedures. And there's one aspect related to companies under the portfolio of the post. And we want to introduce the company redomiciliation regime. The legislature will soon consider the bill. And if this regime is introduced, and when the companies registered elsewhere come to Hong Kong, in terms of the legal process and the costs, that there will be less of a burden. So that means we can attract more companies to Hong Kong, and that will present more business opportunities here. And then since April, we have allowed listing companies to disseminate information online. This is to promote paperless development of the of listed companies. So we will have amended revenue legislation again to help companies to lower costs. So on how we can further deregulate to improve the business environment in Hong Kong, that's definitely one of our priority tasks, and we will keep in communication with you. Thank you. Next, Ms. Carmen Can. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the two posts. If you look at the duties of the two posts, they it has to do with Hong Kong's status as an international financial center, and their duties are essential to that end. But I'd like to know more about the duties. Just now, the acting secretary mentioned the company redomiciliation regime, and we're going to resume second reading in a moment today at the council meeting. So we want to. It's important for us to bring new companies to Hong Kong. Now, the offshore companies, say registered in Bermuda, Cayman Islands, and so on. So those are the usual domicile as of companies, but then we must not overlook mainland companies because we want to bring mainland companies to Hong Kong. China Concept stocks, of course, are under pressure in the U.S. market, and mainland officials mentioned these Chinese companies could come to Hong Kong and the mainland. So I think it's important that the DS and the PAS will pay particular attention to Chinese companies coming to Hong Kong. And the second point is about trust regime. Now, in 2029 to 30, there will be a new round of mutual evaluation by the Financial Action Task Force. Well, that's the 2029 to 30, but then this post will expire at the end of 2028. So you need to review in advance whether there's need to that the duties will still be carried out by the two post holders, or since these two posts are dealing with important work to Hong Kong, so you should take the opportunity to turn these posts into permanent ones. And then third question is about the AIB and the ADB. Now, given the current global situation, and then yesterday, President Xi Jinping met with Latin American countries, their cooperation opportunities, and Xi went on a visit to the Middle East and so on. So about issuance of bonds in Hong Kong and so on, there are other business prospects that we can make the most of the professional services in Hong Kong and our fundraising capabilities, so we could develop further multilateral banking business. Thank you. I'll take the second and third questions first, and then the DS will take the first question. So the third question first. Thank you for your view. ADB, AIB, we take very seriously our interactions with them, and we promote these banks to use the professional services in Hong Kong. So each year we ask them for data on how much professional services they use in Hong Kong. So that's in terms of financial services, technological services, or consultancy services. Works consultancies, that is. Now, of course, our strength is capital center, and ADB has used Hong Kong to issue bonds in the past few years. In 2024, bonds issued amounted to $2 billion, and then earlier this year, that's the AIB, and for the first time this year, ADB used Hong Kong to issue bonds, so we will continue to work with them in that respect. And the second question about trust, in particular the FATF, that is Financial Action Task Force evaluation. It's true, the next round of mutual evaluation in Hong Kong will be in 2029 to 30, but then in the last round of ME in 2019, FATF already gave us recommendations on the relevant legal arrangement, trust on trust information, trustees information, and so on. They've really given us recommendations, so we are actively reviewing the recommendations. When they came to do that round of ME, they already took into account our situation then. So after we received the recommendations, we're following up on that in the past few years. So be ready for the next ME. Now, we're making preparations now, and when there will actually be the ME in 2029-30, our staff will need to carry the UG, so therefore we review the need for the post. Next, Deputy Secretary will take the first question.
唔該，開咪俾阿姜先生。係
Regarding the company re-domiciliation scheme, regarding Common Council question, we discussed at other bill committees, and we will work with ETO and the Hong Kong Exchange in promoting the scheme to targeted companies. When we drafted the ordinance, we struck a balance between companies from different places, and we have been very stringent in gatekeeping. So we will follow up on the suggestions from the member, including promoting the scheme to mainland companies. Next one, Kenneth Leung. Thank you, Chairman. Regarding this two-time limited posts, and I support the retention of the two posts, as these two posts are in charge of many tasks that are essential to Hong Kong's status as an international financial center. My question has to do with fintech. As you can see, the Secretary introduced two programs, one for youngsters, the Greater Bay Area, a two-way internship program for college students, and the second pilot subsidy scheme for practitioners in fintech. Regarding the internship program, I have a few questions. In this program, 150 quotas were allowed. I'd like to know how many posts were used. Are we talking about 150 posts left or 100 posts in total? And is this going to be a long-term program? Secondly, I'd like to ask about the eligibility of the participants of this program and their experience of the past 2 years. Where do the students come from? The second program is the pilot subsidy scheme for practitioners in financial industry. I know we have invested 38 million in this program, but if we have used up the funding, will we make this program a permanent one so we can support the continuous education of these practitioners? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member, for the question. Well, regarding the internship program, the program offers 150 posts, and by the end of Q1 this year, 180 students worked in over 30 fintech companies in the Greater Bay Area. You know that students can only take up this intern post during summer breaks, and we will offer more posts in the summer break, so in total 150 posts. And I'd like to invite the Principal Assistant Secretary to share their experience. And after the first stage, we will review the program. Regarding the second question about the subsidy scheme for practitioners, we have 260 practitioners sign up for the program. It's a pilot program, so when we used these resources allocated, we will review the program and see how we can do better in the future. Fintech is developing very fast. By last September, we have 1,100 fintech companies. So as for talent training, which is very important, we will continue our work, and we will review the format and the effects of this program before formulating long-term strategies. So as for the internship program, as for the fintech two-way internship scheme, we will defer the question to our PAS. Thank you for the question regarding this internship scheme. Well, Regarding eligibility, we hope that students from both Hong Kong and the mainland can work at the fintech companies at each other's places. So Hong Kong students can take intern posts in Greater Bay Area, and those from the Greater Bay Area can work in the companies in Hong Kong. This arrangement is well received because students from both sides can know more about each other, and they can know more about the ecosystem in the Greater Bay Area. And this program received support from businesses from both places, and we have 30 businesses involved in this program offering intern positions. We have received very good feedback, and after taking up intern posts, some students have received offers from their employers after graduation. This program is working very well. So, as the Secretary said, we will launch the new phase of internship scheme in summer break, offering 50 posts. Next, Starry Lee. Chairman, I support this 2 posts outlined in the papers. Over the past years, the SAR government has been working hard in promoting Hong Kong's status as international financial center. The International Financial Center has been one of our name cards, so we need to work hard, step up our efforts. The paper states that these 2 posts are responsible for domiciliation and other areas. For the domiciliation, we will start the second reading debate. We note that the government hopes to attract more companies to set up businesses in Hong Kong. We hope on top of the 15,000 companies operating in Hong Kong, we need to dream big, because many of the listed companies in Hong Kong, due to tax reasons and other reasons, they set up businesses in BVI. If they return to Hong Kong, they need to pay for higher costs, including the stamp duty. So in order to encourage these companies to return to Hong Kong, and in order to increase government revenue, can we please devise some specific programs to attract these offshore companies? I hope you can study on that, and I hope that these 2 posts can take the initiative to approach these offshore companies and see if they have potential for setting up family offices so they can return to Hong Kong. These companies returning to Hong Kong will have to pay stamp duties, but if we have arrangement to waive the stamp duty, we need to take into account the benefits to Hong Kong, including more revenue. I see that the paper states that we need to strengthen disclosure and crack down bogus accountants. And this was the commitment by the administration when AFRC was established. Now we have some tangible targets. I hope you can step up efforts. And on top of that, as this post is going to support the development of accountant, so I hope you can work with sectors in relevant work. Of course, I need to disclose that I am also an accountant myself. There have been a lot of changes in this industry. For example, mounting pressure regarding the reduction of audit fees, and we need to look at the reasonability and accountability. Many young people will shy away from accounting industry, and a lot of medium and small-sized accounting firms are in dire situation. And these challenges were not highlighted in your papers. Can you please talk about how you will deal with that in the future? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member, for the questions and comments. First, as for company domiciliation, indeed, globally, there have been changes in tax policies. Traditional companies will look for better places for tax reasons. So many companies are very interested in Hong Kong to move their operation here. So after the company re-domiciliation ordinance is passed, we have more policies to incentivize them to come to Hong Kong. And our colleagues have been in touch with the target groups. When we have a target, we will step up our work. So our colleagues under this team are not only drafting laws and devising policies, they're also keeping in touch with the industry. As for other policy innovations, our team will keep listening to the views from members. As for accountants, apart from AFRC, other departments are working on this as well. For example, now we announced that accountants will be included in the talent list, and going forward, we will announce the operation of licensed accountants in order to crack on bogus accountants. And we will continue our work in sustainability disclosure, and we will step up to enhance its implementation. So, as members said, on top of our current responsibilities, we will continue to attract talents and crack down on bogus accountants, and we will continue professional education and work on ESG in line with market trends, and we will keep close touch with the members and the public. Next one, Edmund Wong. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, today regarding the retention of 2 posts, D2 and D3, responsible for company registration, lenders, I believe this is very pertinent to my industry. In paragraph 13, it states that one of the responsibilities is to develop long-term financial strategies for the AFRC. As Mr. Cho Siu-chong said, last March, we approved 200 million. We discussed the 200 million funding application from AFRC, and back then we heard that there will be a financial problem if the funding was not approved. There were 60 members present, but only 17 supported. So every time when there is difficulty in operation, you come back to the Legislative Council. This is not ideal. In the long term, you need to pay for your own costs. So in the long term, there has to be a scheme of cracking down on bogus accountants, for example, including the license number of accountants and including accountants in talent list. I want to thank the Secretary for responding to my requests on creating a better development environment for the industry. But I have a question regarding the long-term financial strategy for AFRC. What is progress, and when will you submit a proposal on the long-term financial strategy for the AFRC? After the long-term strategy is formulated, will you promise that you will not levy any more fees on the accounting firms? And my second question regards the bogus accountants. Can you share some latest numbers? Have you received any complaints regarding bogus accountants? How many? Will you take any initiative to investigate some potential cases, suspicious cases? I have been discussing with the administration. Many of the time, these malpractices are possible because of the loopholes in our regulation. Will we amend our ordinances to enhance our work? Regarding this supernumerary work, as we have new schemes, including corporate domiciliation, we will start the second reading debate. As the chairman of the committee, I support that. But in the long term, before the lapse of this post, will you review the job divisions between directorate posts and other posts in order to enhance the efficiency of these 2 posts. Secretary.
Thank you. On the financial position of AFRC and on staffing, I will take those questions, and then the DS will take the question on the latest arrangement in combating bogus accountants. AFRC, as I mentioned before, we hope that the regulatory costs will be covered by users. So it's a user pays principle. That means those regulated or the service users they will pay the fees through a levy mechanism to the AFRC. You might recall in earlier years there were 2 rounds of legislative amendments, and we want the sector to accept the changes gradually. So that's why we have not gone for a self-financing model, but in future definitely it will be self-financing for the AFRC. The bill is now in discussion with the AFRC to consider different options. We'll consider the market condition. We'll consider the business situation of the accounting profession and how, if they could afford to pay more fees, and then we'll also consider the situation of market players and so on. So now, because we're still doing a review, so I'm not able to confirm when we might submit our proposal to the council, but then definitely we are in discussion and communication with the sector. Maybe later we could report to you our initial views, and then after we have come up with a final proposal, we will certainly submit it to LESCO for consideration. On the staffing issue, well, different members mentioned that. Now, this is actually important policy area. I won't repeat what we're doing now because I've already mentioned that earlier. And the next few years, we'll review the staffing arrangement. We'll make sure we have sufficient staff to carry out this such important policy work. At the same time, we'll meet your expectation. Now, given the current fiscal position of the government, we are very cautious with the creation of permanent posts, and that's why we propose to retain the time-limited posts. But then we'll keep reviewing the resource allocation of the FSTB. We'll make sure we use our resources in the most effective way. Now, Mr. Kern will take the other question on. Yes, thank you. On combating bogus accountants. Well, last year we made a major move. We asked that asked for the disclosure of the practicing certificate number in the disclosing the public accountants. So this is new measure that came into effect this financial year. So we have a team to see how the measure is working, and then we'll work with enforcement agencies on how we could do more. And if members have any cases, you could refer them to. Know of any cases, you could refer them to us. Thank you. Follow up. Will you do random checking? Because I have learned about cases. There are quite a number of such cases. I know there may be challenges legally, but then if you amend the law for more effective combating, we want that to work. We don't want just minor tinkering with the system. We want an overhaul of the regime. And so if you could amend the legislation, you could actually stem out the problem altogether. Now, because of the confidentiality rules, so we can't make disclosure now, and then you can only regulate the certified accountants, and that's why there is this loophole. So I hope you will amend the law to crack down on the problem. Please, will you consider that? Do you agree there's a loophole? We've heard the view. We will consider it further. Thank you. If there's a loophole, then I believe we should amend the legislation. Thank you. So that's the end of the discussion. I now put the item to vote. Will those in favor of the proposal in paper number EC 2025-26-2 raise their hands? Thank you. Those against, please raise their hands. None. I think that the majority of members who voted in support of the proposal, so the proposal is carried. The next, now we vote on whether we recommend the Financial Committee to further discuss the item. Now, on whether FC should further discuss this item, I will now put the following motion to the question to a vote in accordance with Rule 40, with paragraph 40A of the procedures of the ESC. That this subcommittee recommends the Finance Committee to further discuss the proposal endorsed by the subcommittee in paper number EC 2025-26-2. Now, if I may remind members, if this question is carried, that means the FC will further consider the paper. If it's not carried, that means the subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of the item at the FC. Will those in favor of the motion please raise their hands? Those in favor of the question, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. Thank you. I think the question is not agreed to by the majority of members who voted. So the question is not carried. That means the subcommittee does not recommend the Finance Committee to further discuss paper number EC bracket 2025-26-2. Now we move on to the next item. Paper number EC 2025-26-3, proposed deletion of 2 permanent posts of Assistant Commissioner of Banking D2 in the Hong Kong Monetary Authority with immediate effect upon approval by the Finance Committee. The administration consulted the panel on financial affairs at its meeting on the 4th of November 2024. Now I invite the chairman of the panel, Mr. Robert Lee, to brief the members on the deliberations of the panel. Thank you. Mr. Robert Lee, please turn on Mr. Lee's microphone. Staff, please. Thank you, Chairman. At its meeting on the 4th of November 2024, the panel on financial affairs discussed the proposal to delete 2 civil service directorate posts of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, Hong Kong MA. Members noted that the Finance Committee approved the retention of the 2 posts of Assistant Commissioner of Banking in 2006 to maintain the promotion prospect of officers of the bank examiner grade remaining on civil service terms. Members inquired if any Hong Kong MA staff members on civil service terms ever took up the post since 2006 and when they left the posts. Hong Kong MA responded that since 2022, all Hong Kong MA staff members on civil service terms have left Hong Kong MA. There is therefore no need to retain the 2 posts. It is proposed to delete the posts. If the proposal to delete the 2 posts of Assistant Commissioner of Banking is approved by the Finance Committee, there will be no more civil service posts on the Hong Kong MA establishment. Members supported submitting the proposal to the Establishment Subcommittee for consideration. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Robert Lee. Attending the meeting for this item, we have Mr. Joseph Chan, Acting Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Mr. Archie Ng, Executive Director, Corporate Services of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. The acting secretary already introduced the paper, so 2 members have asked to speak, Dr. Low Wai Kwok and Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you, Chairman. I just want to make a brief point. That is, I support this proposal because here we're talking about 2 Assistant Commissioner of Banking posts in the Hong Kong MA. They are D2 posts. Now, after the Hong Kong MA was set up by merging a government unit, there certain civil service posts were retained, but then there is a reduction in such posts, and I believe these are just the 2 last civil service posts, and these posts have not been filled in any case. So if you deleted these posts, then there will no longer be any civil service posts in the Hong Kong MA. And definitely that won't affect the operation of the Hong Kong MA. You could say this is an issue left from the past, so that's why I support definitely the proposal. I hope that for other quasi-government bodies or even within the civil service, if there are posts that are no longer needed, I hope they will be deleted as soon as possible. Thank you. So that's just comment. Next, Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you. Chairman, I support the deletion of the 2 posts so that we could streamline the establishment. I read from the paper since 2006 the deletion of all the Commissioner of Banking and Deputy Commissioner of Banking posts were deleted, was approved, and then 4 vacant posts were deleted, and these 2 posts were retained for some, and then this 2 posts have actually been left vacant for some time before you now propose to delete them. So can I ask how long these 2 posts have been left vacant? Why is it that you only ask for the deletion of the post now? Well, I agree the post should be deleted because we want to, that's to show the government's commitment to streamline the structure. Now, if these 2 posts have been left vacant for some time, then you should just delete them because you no longer need them. But can the administration tell us if there are other quasi-government bodies with in a similar situation? Maybe their post has been left vacant for some time. So, can you follow the practice of Hong Kong MA? I think it's a good practice. So these posts, have been left vacant, and these posts are now not needed. So just delete them. Are there other quasi-government bodies in a similar situation? Please tell us. Thank you. Secretary, thank you. On the member's second question, that is whether there are similar cases. I will relay the question to the Civil Service Bureau. First question, why is it that we're only deleting the post now? Perhaps my colleague could explain that from Hong Kong MA, that is. Mr. Ng, thank you. As Mr. Chow mentioned, in 2006, we did delete some of the Directorate Civil Service posts after approval of the FC, and we kept 2 Assistant Commissioner of Banking posts because at that time there were still quite a number of civil servants working in the Hong Kong MA. And as the Secretary mentioned, this is an issue left from the past. When we were first set up, there were civil servants that transferred to the Hong Kong MA, and they kept their civil service terms. So at the time we kept the 2 Directorate Civil Service posts because we would like to maintain the promotion prospects of the then serving civil servants in the Hong Kong MA. Now, but then these 2 posts have been left vacant, and so that's why we're now proposing to delete the 2 posts, because in 2022 all civil servants in Hong Kong MA have left. So there are no longer civil servants in the Hong Kong MA since 2022. And after review, we want to delete the 2 last civil service directorate posts. The Secretary took the other question that you have to ask the Civil Service Bureau. So maybe you should submit a paper after the meeting to see whether, then tell us whether there are similar cases in other quasi-government bodies. Thank you. Next, Mr. Gary Chen. Of course, I support the proposal to delete the 2 civil service posts in the Hong Kong May because it will result in savings. But then if I could pick up on Mr. Holden Chow's point. Now, when I read the paper, I find it odd that you have to come to the establishment subcommittee on the deletion of 2 posts. And then when I was sitting here, other colleagues asked, how come you need to come to this subcommittee on the deletion of posts? So it seems that members don't know exactly what the arrangement is. So can you tell us? Now, sometimes the government will come to apply to seek approval for the creation of time-limited posts and so on. And then on the deletion of posts, now, if those are supernumerary posts and if they lapse, then they lapse. Those posts are no longer there. But then if there are permanent posts created, and then when the posts need to be deleted because there's no longer need to fill the post, is there any mechanism to report to us? Or is it the case that the Hong Kong A is being rule-abiding? It comes to us to ask to delete the post. Otherwise, we won't even know. So within the government mechanism, how do you tell us, let's say you created a post 3 years ago, you no longer need it, so the post is deleted? Is there such an arrangement to give us a report? And then Mr. Holden Chow asked, how many permanent posts have been created? Since they are not needed, they have been deleted. So is there a mechanism for us to inform us of such development? Thank you.
The Deputy Secretary from CSB would take the question. Thank you for the question. And according to the terms of reference of this subcommittee, when government creates or redeploy or deletes permanent posts, they will need to consult the Legislative Council for their support and approval. So when it has to do with directorate posts or time-limited posts, in terms of creation and in terms of deletion, they will need to come to this subcommittee for approval. Regarding the establishment of permanent or time-limited posts, this is a part of the establishment of civil servants, and the number of posts are outlined in the budget every year. The number of permanent posts, the number of time-limited posts, they're all there. Well, let's not dwell on history of the past few years. In this term of logical, we haven't heard of any deletion of directorate posts. Does that mean that over the past 4 years, there was 0 post being deleted? Of course, this is off topic, but I'd like to know more about the establishment mechanism. According to the terms of reference of the ESC, in A1 of our terms of reference, creation, redeployment or deletion of supernumerary posts and permanent posts will need to be dealt with by ESC. Of course, I have the similar question. Is it possible that we don't have an official meeting for this particular topic? Can we please deal with it with circulation of documents? We can probably discuss how we can simplify the procedure. Thank you, Chairman, for your comments, which I agree with. Now, with the limitations of the terms of reference of ESC, when we delete posts when they are vacant, because these are permanent posts, that's why we need to come back to this committee for an official approval. Of course, to simplify the procedure, if most of the members support the deletion, then it would suffice with a written report. If the committee agrees, we will cooperate. Following up on what the chairman said, over the past 3 years, can we please be informed how many posts were deleted over the past 3 years? Okay, we can supplement documents after this meeting. Mr. Lo Wei-Kok. Chairman, you have made it very clear. In our terms of reference, it was made very clear that deletion of any directorate posts will entail legislative approval. I think we need some discussion at the meeting. In my impression, we don't remember many cases like that. I think we need to discuss the deletion of this post, and if that happens, the government will need to report to the Legislative Council, and I think our subcommittee will play our role of monitoring the government. Without further questions, now I will put this item for vote. Those who support this EC 2026-3, please, those who are in favor, please raise your hand. Those against, please raise your hand. I believe most of the voting members supported this proposal, though this proposal is passed. Now we will move to the next item on the further discussion of the FC of this item. Now I will put this item for a vote. And those who supported further discussion at the FC for EC 2025-26-3 paper passed by this subcommittee. I remind that with the passage of this item, it suggests that the subcommittee suggests further discussion by the FC of this paper. If it's rejected, then it means that we don't suggest a further discussion at the FC. Those who are in favor, please raise your hand. Those who are against, please raise your hand. Thank you. I believe most of the voting members rejected this proposal. This proposal is rejected. The subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of EC 2025-26-3 at the FC. Now we will move to the third item regarding Labor Department. Its proposed retention of one-time limited supernumerary posts of CLOD1 in the Labor Department with effect from 8 July 2025 or with immediate effect upon approval of the Finance Committee, whichever is later, for a period of 3 years, to lead the Registry of Trade Unions and the Workplace Consultation Promotion Division to strengthen the regulation of trade unions to safeguard national security, as well as promote workplace consultation to foster harmonious labor relations. And the government consulted the Manpower Committee last year. And for this item, we have Secretary for Labor and Welfare, Mr. Chris Swen, and Deputy Commissioner for Labor, Mr. Raymond Hall, and Assistant Commissioner for Labor, Mr. Raymond Leung, and Registrar for Trade Unions from Labor Department, Ms. Christine Butt. Now, Mr. Lam Chun-sing, Chairman of the Manpower Committee, will brief this subcommittee. At its meeting on 24th March 2025, the panel on manpower discussed the proposed retention of one-time limited supernumerary posts of Chief Labor Officer D1 in the Labor Department for a period of 3 years to lead the Registry of Trade Unions and the Workplace Consultation Promotion Division under the Labor Department. Members supported the submission of this proposal to the Establishment Committee for consideration. Members generally recognized the importance of this proposed post retention for safeguarding national security and improving the regulatory regime for trade unions. Some members believe that while there is a need at this moment to retain the post, the administration should review the overall use of resources given the current fiscal deficit. The administration should review the long-term arrangement of the posts and the distribution of duties among other CLOs. Members suggest that the administration should set KPIs for the duties of this post and assess after 3 years if the post still needs to be kept. Members expressed concerns about the work of the post to promote workplace consultation and to foster harmonious labor relations. Members further urged the administration to consider setting KPIs for promoting national security education among trade unions, and the aim is to foster national security awareness among trade unions so that they will actively take up the duty of safeguarding national security. The administration has responded to the questions and concerns of members at the meeting. I so report. Thank you, Chairman. Now, I observed 8 members pressed the request to speak button. So I will allow 5 minutes for everyone. Mr. Zhao Mengguan, Chao Siu-chong, Chang Wing-kwon, Edmund Wong, Kingsley Wong, Mr. Deng Ga-piu, Mr. Chang Yong, and Ms. Yong Ha-yum. Mr. Chao Mengguan, please. Chairman, the post of CLO started with 2022. Well, we should give them some credit because they've handled over 1,500 new trade union registrations which were involved in some bad practices. And I think they should be given some credits in a critical period. But now, given the new amendment to the trade union ordinance, and given that there are similar cases and they were almost handled, of course, you can say that there is some work left to be done. But can you please promise to us that after 3 years, this post will not be created again? I have followed up on similar work, so I know that we have a specific CLO taking up the post as the registrar for trade union. So do we still need such a long term for this post? And one of the responsibilities is to respond to international organizations who are commenting on the practice of trade unions in Hong Kong. Well, I wonder if the international organizations would listen to a mere CLO. They would probably listen to the labor secretary or other officials. So is this responsibility really important? In the end, I see that one of the responsibilities has to do with workplace consultation. And the directory post will need to handle workplace consultation as well. But this was handled by an assistant labor officer. And apart from that, we have divisions for work time and arbitration. So why this work division? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Cho, for the question. The first question has to do with what we do after 3 years. We will review that after 3 years regarding safeguarding national security. The work is never done because we never know where the risks are. So in these 3 years with amendments to ordinance, we need to review our work done. And after 3 years, we will report our progress to the subcommittee again. Well, second question regarding how we respond to the international organizations. It's probably not the registrar. It could be myself. Well, let's not dwarf ourselves. The registrar for trade unions is very important. If the people are talking bad about us, we can respond to them. We can reason with them. I think this is worth doing. Thirdly, I suggest that these posts do a bit more of work, namely workplace consultation. Well, the D1 posts in Labor Department are not many. We have only 3 permanent posts. So we have been very good in saving costs. So we hope that we can make good use of the fund. And we hope that we can keep this directorate post for 3 years and see if they can do a better job in workplace consultation. So we need to think about this the other way around. If we have 3 years, we can give them more work. If they are tasked with more work, it's not possible because they have to focus on trade unions and safeguarding national security. Next one, Mr. Cho Siu-chong. So after Cho Siu-chong, we will draw a line here. Thank you, Chairman. I support the retention of this post. The amendment to trade union ordinance is almost complete. But after the amendment, we believe that the mandate of registry for trade union has been expanded. And in the future, we will help trade unions operate healthily, and there is a lot of work to be done. For example, monitoring the relations with the trade unions, with the international organizations, and the history with international external organizations, or how Hong Kong trade unions received financial assistance from external organizations, and we need to monitor those who have connections, those external organizations with connection with local trade unions. The Secretary has answered all those questions, so I believe monitoring all this involves a lot of work. That's why I support this proposal. But I have 2 further questions. Number one of the posts, its responsibilities is to coordinate other divisions under Labor Department in safeguarding national security. We're talking about a D1 post coordinating the efforts of all divisions under the department. So what are the tasks, specific tasks of safeguarding national security in other departments? So why not a D2 post, but a D1 post coordinating the efforts? Secondly, as the Secretary said, after 3 years, you will review the progress of this post. But to me, I believe this post is still necessary after 3 years, because we are talking about heavy duties when it comes to workplace consultation. We have 2 D1 colleagues in charge of that. But now, altogether, we have 4 D1 posts, and one of them is in charge of minimum wage. It's also a directorate post. And over the past few years, this post was tasked with less work because the post doubled as a registrar for trade unions. But now this part was taken away from his duties. Of course, the Secretary mentioned annual review to this post, but if we follow the same lines, this post is tasked with less work. It's probably ticking the boxes, filling tables, and writing a report. So we foresee less work for this post. With 3 years, with these 4 posts, can they please redistribute their workload? So after 3 years, is it possible that we can delete 1 D1 post?
Secretary, thank you, Mr. Charles Siu Chung, for your support. In the Labor Department, D1 is a very senior post. There aren't too many, really. That's why the D1 posts are senior enough to carry out coordination work. Now we want to empower our colleagues to do more work. Now for a directorate civil servant colleague, he is in position to do a lot. So if a D1 can do the work, why don't we want to elevate it to a D2 or D3? So we try to be pragmatic. Now the D1 colleague is actually here. So if he's able to do the work, let him do the work, please. And if there's need for more senior coordination, of course we'll elevate the matter to a higher level. And if it's a serious matter, of course it will come to me. So you need to believe that a D1 colleague is more than able to do the work. And 3 years, that's the second question. Now we have 3 permanent D1 posts and 1 time-limited D1 post. So review the needs for all the posts in one go. As for the statutory minimum wage duties, I won't say they are less. Now, it was a biannual review of the statutory minimum wage. Now is an annual review. Now, apart from following a formula, definitely different parties will have different views, so that's why there's a need to consider the matter very carefully. Mr. Chow is right to point out that in 3 years we'll be able to see what the development is, and then we'll form our judgment based on facts. Now, if we're able to cope, definitely we won't try to hold on to the post. But if we are not able to cope with the work, we'll definitely tell you that we need the post. Professor Chen Wing-Kwong, I support the proposal, but I have a number of questions. First, the post holder will also be the registrar of trade unions. And so it was the post holder will have the important duty of safeguarding national security in relation to trade unions, and the post holder will deal with the receiving of assistance from organizations in external places and so on. So there are actually onerous duties, and also regulating trade union is an ongoing duty. How come you're only keeping the post for 3 years? Have you considered turning the post into a permanent post? That's the first question. Secondly, now, apart from safeguarding national security, the post holder will also lead the Workplace Consultation Promotion Division to promote workplace consultation and foster harmonious labor relations. Now, there is the CLO already doing the work. How come this post holder will also take up the task? Because and then with the importance and complexity in safeguarding national security, will you consider allowing the post holder to focus on leading the registry of trade unions instead of taking up workplace consultation as well? Now, safeguarding national security includes the management of trade unions is certainly an ongoing duty. There's no doubt about it. But then our principle is to deploy the least manpower to do the most work. As you know, the government is under fiscal pressure, so we try to therefore take the most economic approach, and we'll keep the post for 3 years, and after 3 years then we'll come back and tell you whether we need to keep the post or we need to delete it or we need to turn the post into a permanent one. So thank you for your concern. And why is it that we propose the post holder will also take up workplace consultation? Now we have another permanent D1 post, CLO post, in charge of the labor relations division, but that's to frontline post to deal with emergency cases. For example, if there's wage issue and so on, so that's to deal with specific incidents. But then here for the workplace consultation promotion division is more about marketing. We just want to promote good relations, but then for the labor relations division colleagues, they have no time to deal with such matters because they have to handle emergency cases. So that's why if we keep a 3-year time limit post, we want the post holder to take up additional work. The name of the division may be similar, but then the nature of the work is entirely different. Thank you. Mr. Emmett Wong. Well, I had 2 questions, but the Bureau already answered the first question. The second question, just now the Secretary said that this post has nothing to do with the Labor Relations Division. The Labor Relations Division is responsible for handling emergency cases, and the Workplace Consultation Promotion Division is responsible for marketing. So why don't you elevate the post to D3 so you put marketing and handling emergency cases under the same post, then it will be easier for coordination. Would it be the case? Secretary, is again a matter of principles. If our colleague is able to do that, or is not able to do that, then we can not really come and ask for a more senior post, a D2 or P3 post, because there is a small directorate staff in the Labor Department. And all these years, the colleague responsible of Labor Relations Division has been really working well. He's able to take up all the work. But now we're talking about liaison and promotion, so there should be a separate team doing that. Now, of course, if we have more resources in the future, you think there should be a more senior post to oversee the task, we will be happy to look at that. But then currently, the post holder is doing a great job. D1 is already a very senior post with much powers. Imagine a chief superintendent is also just a D1 post, so you know how much a D1 post holder can handle. Next, Mr. Kingsley Wong. I support the retention of the post, because there's much work to be done to implement measures in relation to safeguarding national security. And I agree, if after 3 years, when everything is working well, statutory minimum wage, we just need a formula so easy to work out how much it will be. There won't be so many disputes. So maybe after 3 years, we'll consider deleting one D1 post. If not, perhaps it's one D1 post plus a senior executive officer to do the work. So will you consider which is the best way to handle the work? Another question. The qualifications of the registrar of trade unions. Now, right now there are no nationality requirements for a director post in the civil service, but then the post here is important because it's about safeguarding national security. So we need to make sure that policies are properly formulated before implementation is effective. So have you reviewed the nationality requirements with the civil service posts that are so important? For example, the director of broadcasting, there was one with American passport and another with an Australian passport. So if you want to ensure there are patriots administering Hong Kong, so when it comes to important posts, will you review the policy and impose a nationality requirement? I'm sure the Civil Service Bureau has heard your view, but it's really a policy issue. I think we should leave it to the panel on public services because it's something important. Secretary, well, I thank Mr. Kingsley Wong for his support. As I mentioned earlier, we will conduct an overall review after 3 years. We won't just look at the D1 posts. There are 3 other permanent D1 posts, so we'll look at all the posts in one go. Now, I would only expect an increase in workload of the Labour Department. There won't be any decrease because there's so much to do. And then Mr. Kingsley Wong asked the same question in the panel. I agree. The Registrar of Trade Unions has to be appointed by the chief executive under the ordinance. So you can imagine when the person is appointed, he has to meet the general requirements. We'll also consider the special case of this post, and we'll make sure that the post holder will be able to perform his duties in relation to safeguarding national security properly. Thank you. Mr. Bill Tang. The secretary was the Commissioner of Labour for a long time. So when he talks about the division of duties and so on, he definitely is in the know. And lifting the post to D2 does not really matter because with labor relations, you have to handle emergency cases. It's not just about senior officer handling a matter, rather the person has to be there in person to deal with it. So if you have more senior generals, it doesn't help if it doesn't come to the scene. But then I'd like to find out a bit more. Enclosure 2. Under the Assistant Commissioner Development, there's the International the Relations Division. I know there are many international conventions and so on relevant to labor issues. And then for the post under consideration, the post holder will have to handle complaints or respond to concerns from international organizations. But then his immediate senior, his immediate supervisor does not handle international relations, but only labor relations. So what is the line of reporting? Now, apart from leading the trade registry of trade unions, the post holder will also look at workplace consultation, that is promotion of tripartite collaboration. Now, say, for example, with some tripartite collaboration, we want better achievements, but then so far we've not seen that. So how do we promote tripartite collaboration? Are there specific objectives or achievements? And thirdly, I want this post to be permanent, but then it's not about regulating trade unions, but rather promoting the healthy development of trade unions, so that the role of trade unions is then recognized widely in the community, and then trade unions are able to help workers. So it's not just about regulation, but rather about promoting the development of trade unions. So that's why I think this post needs to be permanent.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. You're very familiar with our work. When it comes to the establishment of our department, we have 5 assistant secretaries, and we have only 3 permanent D1 posts. One of them is time limited, so we need their responsibilities to be mixed. And it's not that every assistant secretary has 2 subordinates, so we need to mix the responsibilities. So this colleague, for workplace consultation, we need to work with other assistant secretaries. So this is very special in our department. So we have a more senior generals than the number of generals, if we continue with the battlefield analogy. So second question has to do with results of our work. We suggest that these D1 posts can be given more time. We're talking about different sectors, and can we please think of cross-sector collaboration? For example, tourism, catering. Can we have one D1 post director taking care of all sectors? Well, in the end, I agree with what Mr. Tan said. On top of amending the ordinance of trade unions, regulation is another point of concern. The reality is that we have 1,400 trade unions. Many of them are very small. Some of them are dormant unions, the zombie trade unions. So we need to keep an eye on them. If they have trade unions, they must be active. And in the future, after the amendment, we will have more work given to this post holders, and with the development of trade unions, there will be more work involved. Next one, Mr. Chen Yong. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I support the proposal. And now the Bill Committee on the amendments to the trade union ordinance. We have a few meetings, and I was the chairman. I was involved in the discussion. On page 8 of the paper from 2023, we have seen a reduction of 54 posts. We believe this is a landmark that deserves some appraisal. We have a few posts. They have more work to do. And the secretary was talking about this table. I believe other departments should applaud and learn from this structure. And now we have streamlined the structure. They are working in one team. As the secretary said, the responsibilities are mixed. And I think that's with some applause. I think upgrading a position will involve more resources, but at this meetings, I'm sure you will agree with me that the Labor and Welfare Department colleagues are very capable. So I believe we need to promote these colleagues, not the positions. If they're working well, they deserve promotion. That's why I agree with the current structure, because it shows to the public how good it is. Although I'm not an expert in labor and welfare, but at the meetings, many of the members coming from trade unions said that we have explained a lot. We alleviate people's concerns. And for the trade unions, many of the job positions are voluntary work. It's not going to be subject to punishment. We need to hold their hand and teach them how to fill out the tables. Of course, some details are not visible at these meetings. These posts involve a lot of work. That's why I support them. At an early stage, if this post holders cannot deal with a lot of work, I believe the secretary and other colleagues can support them. I believe there is a mechanism for them to receive more assistance. Yes, as the secretary said, their job responsibilities are really mixed. Thank you, Mr. Chen Yong, for assuming the position of the chairman of the Bill Committee. As Mr. Chen said, we will make good use of our resources. Well, things like that happened a couple of years ago when the Black Riot happened. To deal with the trade unions, we had to deploy colleagues from other divisions of our department for help. Well, it sometimes happens when something emergent happens. We need to look for help, and we will continue this good practice. And the last one to speak is Ms. Yong Hoi-Yan. I support the retention of the time-limited supernumerary post of the COO. In 2022, at the beginning, this structure was not supported, but now we come back to this structure, and the focus of the work shifts from the approval of applications. Now we know that these applications have been completed, and we're talking about a dozen of applications only every year. Now the national security law has come into effect. It's been going on very well. We know that the secretary has to focus on workplace consultation instead. With this involvement, for workplace consultation, we have 2 labor officers taking in charge of them. So I'd like to know more about their job division. And in the future, if there's 2 officers, we need to lead registrar of trade unions. They need to safeguard national security. We're talking about increasing their workload. They have to deal with amendments, and they need to deal with registry of trade unions. So when it comes to regulation of trade unions and national security, in terms of their workload, how can they balance different sectors, different lines of work? Thank you, Eunice, for your support over the past 3 years. One of the important parts of the registrar is to, number one, deal with law amendments, and second, deal with this avalanche of thousands of applications for trade unions during Black Riots. Well, going forward in the next 3 years, the most important task is to implement the trade union ordinance and conscientiously safeguard national security. We have thousands of trade unions. We used to have thousands of trade unions. So the officers' work is very high level, ensuring that there is no connection with external organizations. We have strengthened our day-to-day administration. Some of the officers, some of the trade unions are very small-sized unions, and in the next 3 years, the officer, we need to deal with them one by one. For example, keeping a record of meeting minutes of 2 years. Well, this is basic requirement, but it's huge workload for some small trade unions. We need to help them do that. This involves huge workload for the officers. These officers, we need to call them and let them come to the office and teach them by holding their hand. I believe if you work for trade unions, you know that very well. Trade union officers are voluntary, so it's huge work if you ask them to even write a few letters on a table. So we believe we can make these officers do more work in facilitating workplace consultation. But this is different from the officer in charge of labor relationship, because as I said, they were like firefighters. They deal with labor disputes, unpaid wages, so they would need to focus on frontline work. But when it comes to meeting the representatives from trade unions, workers, this is long-term work. It's hard for the firefighters to do them. So if these officers can free up their time to do more work, that will be good. D1 is indeed the frontline workers, and D2 are policymakers. But we're talking about very practical work. If we ask these policymakers, if we're talking about D2 or above, these are policymakers. So we should give the work to D1 officers. Of course, these D2 officers are making decisions, but they are working at a high level, and D1 is working on a more practical level, which we need this time. Thank you, Secretary, for the explanation on the differences between D1 and D2. Now we have finished all the questions. Now we need to put this item for vote. Those in favor of the item EC 2025-26-4, please raise your hand. Thank you. Those against, please raise your hand. I believe the majority of the voting members supported this item, and this proposal is passed. Now we will go for another voting on whether the FC will further discuss this item according to 40A of the Rules of Procedure of this ESC. I now put this for a vote. This subcommittee suggests that the FC further discuss the recommendations by the subcommittee in paper EC 2025-26-4. I remind if this proposal is passed, it shows that the subcommittee suggests that the FC further discuss this paper. If it's rejected, and then it means the ESC doesn't recommend the FC further discuss this paper. Those in favor, please raise hands. Those against, please raise hands. Thank you. I believe most of the members rejected this proposal. Therefore, this proposal is rejected. The subcommittee does not recommend a further discussion by the FC of the EC 2025-26-4 paper. This concludes this meeting. The next meeting will be scheduled for 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning on 28th May 2025. Thank you.